Hello everybody and welcome to Cleveland Conversations, a special weekend at Cleveland State University 2023 Fall Commencement. And it is my pleasure to be joined by Isis Duncan. She is the university's valedictorian for Cleveland State University's Fall 2023 Commencement. Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your journey. It's not the unique college graduate journey that you took here, but take us through the journey, how you arrived at Cleveland State University.
I wouldn't know exactly where to start. But I would say that the journey has been a lot of hard work. As from when I was younger, going through different multiple school institutions to working multiple part-time and full-time jobs. And I would say that how I got to Cleveland State was knowing that I had something I had to fulfill for myself. Before coming to Cleveland State, I wanted to go to Goucher, Maryland, Baltimore, which did not go so well. You realize that there's a lot more obstacles you have to go through and go around and go above than you imagine. So once I got to Maryland and realized that it wasn't going to work out, brought myself back to Cleveland and took my time to work, save up money, because money is what you need to go to school. And then I was hit with an email that told me I had one last chance of taking the Say Yes scholarship in Cleveland. And I took that as a sign that this was the right path for me to go for college. It was right at home, around my family and my mother, but also it gave me time to just really be stationed where I was and really find out who I was from a place I was trying to leave. So yeah, I would say like my journey to getting to CSU was just reminding myself that it's all right to stay where I'm at while also expanding who I was.
You mentioned you had a gap year or two to get the money. Did that even motivate you more to want to do what you did?
It did. It really did. I think one thing I learned about myself was how much I can truly manifest something into my life. When I came back and I took 2 months to just sit in my room and say, okay, let me take this time to emotionally ground myself. And then after that, I said, it's time to get back to work. And I'm someone who's always used to working. And what was it? I was working at a gas station. I was working at a poetry internship and fellowship for youth in Cleveland called 12 Literary Arts. And then at some point, I lost that job due to COVID coming around and lack of funds on their ends, which is understandable. And then I said, you know what? I don't want to work there, but I worked at Amazon for an entire year. And right when I started, I said, this is the goal. And I planned it out. And the goal was to work at Amazon for a year, save as much money as possible. And I told myself to spend maybe $100 every paycheck and put the rest, other than bills, put the rest in savings. And that towards the end, I was going to go back to school. I sent out my scholarship information, filled out FAFSA. And once I got towards the end, it was about, I think it was August to September, I was in Cleveland State. I was starting to work towards my degree path, and I had enough money to at least get me started and keep going.
So you major in English.
I do.
Creative writing is kind of a focus. Why did you choose that path? What do you hope to do with it?
So I chose creative writing within English because I could have went the literary route, but what made me really drawn and attracted to it was, I guess, my previous experience with doing creative writing, not only by myself and with students. I realized that how healing writing was. When I was younger, I would write all the time, and I had other artistic avenues. But one thing through writing that really motivated me was how raw and truthful it was, and how behind every word is a different world. So depending on what I wrote, it really encapsulated that feeling I was having or the place I was. And it was nice to see myself outside of myself as well. And so working with young youth and helping them like garner this knowledge of how they can really express themselves also motivated me to continue writing and healing myself. And so when I came to Cleveland State, I've had multiple majors I've wanted before. I wanted to be an arts major, film major, I wanted to be in photography. And when I came here, I said, but this is something that really gives me passion, that really makes me feel whole when I'm able to take that time and sit down and write. And I wanted to start bringing that to students. So I would say that after graduating, not only is my goal to be a lifetime student, no matter what, so to continue reading, to continue writing, continue learning, because I'm a very curious person, but it's also to help youth and even just adults, a wide range of students, to realize that their worlds are important and they're allowed to be shared. And I think one quote that one of my favorite authors, Toni Morrison, like one quote by her is, if you are thinking of a story, it's not going to be a direct quote, if you're thinking of a story and you haven't seen it anywhere, then you should write that story yourself, is basically the quote by her. And I think that a lot of people are missing those stories around them. They don't see themselves in the world and they don't hear their voices. So I really want to help students do that for themselves.
Were there any people at Cleveland State that really helped you through your journey?
I would say when I first entered, I entered through the TRIO office. So, you know, TRIO is helping out students from first-gen families, parents who haven't graduated college or maybe went through college and couldn't, you know, finish, and or even people who are international with international parents, and you know they just haven't been able to get those opportunities. And that's where I first kind of started. And one thing I really enjoyed was the fact of how supportive they were of my career path, my academic path, my own personal well-being and where I wanted to go. And along with that, one shout out I want to make is to Randy Myers, who works within the TRIO office. She was my personal advisor. And if there's one thing that always really like helped me and guided me was how much she garnered a listening self whenever I was in the room. She'd always listen to what my exact goals or what path I wanted to be on. I came into CSU with an associate's that I already got from high school. And so I kind of was already in that mindset of like, I gotta get stuff done fast, And she's like, well, we can see where we're at and we'll get you to there, but let's make this path first. Let's sit down together. And it was just always easy to set up my classes or just talk about personal things. Like I could see her as not only an advisor, but a friend that I could talk to. So I would say Randy Myers, she really helped me.
When you look at your journey, would you change anything about it? And at what point did you say, you know, I want to be valedictorian?
Well, I'll answer the first part for that. When it comes to changing things, I feel like whenever someone asks me this, I wouldn't change anything at all. There are certain aspects that maybe I would hope where my mind would be at the time. But when it comes to what I would change, I would say nothing. And the reason why is because there's a lot of moments where it's really difficult. Not only just for me, but for every student, every person, where life is really difficult. And it took me a long time to realize that those difficulties, the things that make us really uncomfortable, is truly who has made me, who makes a lot of beautiful individuals who they are. And, you know, healing and all these different transitions comes in waves. But I think that I, like Isis Duncan, couldn't be who I was without the things that have been very hurtful or very beautiful or very tender. And yeah, I don't think I would change anything. But to get to this spot, I've constantly, and I have to stop saying it, is I keep saying when somebody asks me, oh, like valedictorian, and I say, I don't know how I got here. And I had to stop saying that because I know it's from hard work. I've always been someone where if I have a mind on something, I really go for it. So I didn't have in mind like, oh, I want to be valedictorian. But when I first came back to school, I said, I want to get A's for no one else but myself. I wanted to make sure and show myself like I can do whatever I put my mind to. And that was from the first semester. So yeah, I got here because I just really wanted to strive for something that I really wanted.
Congratulations, a job well done.
Thank you so much.
Isis Duncan, the 2023 Valedictorian for the University at Cleveland State University. We're going to take a quick time out. We will continue with more on Cleveland Conversations from Commencement Weekend at Cleveland State University.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Oh boy. Our back and forth. It always came back. Dad! You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Cleveland Conversation continues here at Cleveland State University's 2023 Commencement Weekend celebration. And we are pleased to be joined by Tim Cosgrove, a two-time graduate of Cleveland State University, earning a degree in political science in 1983, a law degree in 1987. Mr. Cosgrove began his career as top policy advisor to then Governor George V. Voinovich. Since then, he's had a hand in nearly every major political policy impacting the region, areas such as tax reform, health care, economic development, public finance. Prior to co-founding Cosgrove John Henry, was a partner for nearly 30 years with the law firm of Squire, Patton, Boggs. Currently serves as the vice chair to CSU's Board of Trustees. Tim, thanks so much for joining us. It's your second stint on the Board of Trustees. What has, made you give so much time and so much service to Cleveland State University?
It's a place that I believe in. It changed my life. And one of the things I was reminded of many times in my first round on the board, Michael Schwartz, who was then the president, used to remind us all the time, we're in the business of changing lives. And this place changed my life, and it's really a privilege to be engaged in it now, to do what we can so that it continues to impact other lives.
There are almost 100,000 alumni that go to school here, that stay in the region. How important do you feel Cleveland State is to Northeast Ohio and the region?
I always say to folks, I think this is the most important institution we have in town, because for the reasons I just said earlier. I mean, it changes lives. People come here, it enriches their lives, it informs the community, and it creates thinkers and builds into our knowledge economy, all of which feeds us as a region. And because most of the folks stay here, they feed our businesses, and they contribute to our economic development. But most of all, it enriches the lives of the people who come here.
What is it about this university that prepared you to do the great things that you've done in your career?
Well, it was interesting. When I first stepped on this campus when I was in high school, took a bus down and toured the campus. I'd never been on a college campus before, and just the electricity of the place ignited me, and it was really the professors. I always talk about one of the great moments of my tenure here at Cleveland State was when I walked in on the fourth floor classroom and Dr. Holm was teaching an American history course. It really was remarkable. And I always say it's the magic between the professor and the student, and that is really what we're all about.
You mentioned you walked in as a high school student. How have you seen it change? And you've been a part of it pretty much since then.
Yeah, like I said, I started here in 1979. It was a very different place, and it's changed. The face of it's changed. I hope we've become more student friendly. It's certainly a campus where students are more engaged. I like to think the core of what we do, though, hasn't changed in that we're educating students, but just the feel of the campus and the way hopefully it's more inviting to students, and the number of students living on campus and all those things have made an enormous difference in terms of creating the environment that we think is critical for students to succeed.
You have served as the co-chair of CSU's Radiance Scholarship event. Mm-hmm. It's raised $3.5 million to assist students. What is the Radiance Scholarship Fund? How important is it, and how near is it to what you value?
So Radiance is an annual fundraiser. It was started by really the guy I give most of the credit to is Tom Adler, who was just a real champion of, has been and still is a real champion at Cleveland State. And he and I co-chaired that for years. And it raises money for scholarships and what we like to think, the last dollar in. We have a lot of students who, for various reasons need a little bit of help to complete their journey here at Cleveland State. And it's served thousands of students and helped them complete their experience here at Cleveland State.
A lot of first-generation college students called it. How important is that, and how important is it to the region that it's accessible to everybody, if you will?
That's who we are, right? And I was a first-generation student. My dad was a bus driver, dropped out of high school at 9th grade, and that begins to change. It goes back to changing lives, and it's important that we serve as a door of opportunity. I always like to say, this university opens up a world to folks. So for so many students who come here, it's their first experience in the family with the university, as it was in my case. So, that we thrive here in Northeast Ohio is critical to the success of those students.
So we're taping this, talking right now at the beginning of commencement weekend. How important is that? What does that mean, the commencement weekend, the commencement celebration, and what advice would you give to people that are graduating from this university?
It's the greatest time to participate here in the university commencement. I still remember when I graduated in 1983, first kid in my family to go to college. I still remember in Woodling Gym, my parents up in the rafters, they were just glowing, right? And every time I come here for commencement, I think of that, and I think about all the achievements of the students who are walking across the stage, and it's a great reminder of why we're here. And it's important because it's a commencement, it's a beginning, right? Hopefully what we've done here is we've provided the basis of lifelong learning and a love of knowledge that these students will take with them throughout their lives and their careers.
So the world changing, without question. Everything is changing. From your perspective, some of the biggest challenges that Cleveland State and all universities are facing today. It's not unique to Cleveland State, but let's say Cleveland State. Yeah,
I think you're right. It's not unique to Cleveland State. But higher ed is facing a challenge. It's not the first challenge that higher ed's ever faced, right? First and foremost is the challenge of demographics. There are fewer students graduating from high school, so there's more universities. There's the same number of universities chasing fewer students. That's a problem. So you have to be competitive and really offer value. I think the other challenge is too, and I think we're living in a time for a lot of different reasons where some people challenge or some people question the value of a higher ed degree, which to me is unfortunate because the facts are clear in terms of what it means for an individual in a lifetime. So we've got to, higher universities, Cleveland State, we've got to address those issues, right? We've got to make sure students understand why it's relevant. We have to be always focused on ensuring that we're delivering value and that they see that value.
What about success stories? What have you seen as some success stories since you've been a part of this university, and the ones that you're most proud of, maybe?
Gosh, there are so many. One of my favorite is met a young man. I was involved in a fraternity here, and got to know him as a chapter advisor. And he actually ended up serving on the board as a student trustee. And he's now a CEO of a company. And I got a note from him about a year ago thanking me for just taking time to spend with him and how much it meant to him. And I had no idea that he had gone on and become a CEO of a company, but it was just, that's just incredible. But I do a lot of work in the community. And I have an opportunity to interact with a lot of our graduates who are doing everything from nursing in hospitals to working in CDCs in our neighborhoods. I mean, our graduates are all over, and just so many success stories.
Tim, is there anything that you want to add about Cleveland State and its importance to the region that I haven't asked you about?
Yeah, I think it is. I feel strongly and deeply about this institution and how incredibly important it is. We've talked about that. And one of the things, again, we haven't talked about is this is a place that is, we're only as good as the people and the professors and the people who are here to serve students. And one of the things that makes us so remarkable are the people who come here every day, and our professors and teachers, and the folks. We've got a president who just lives and breathes this place. It's the people who are here that make us who we are. And again, it's always that magic in the classroom between that professor and that student that really create what I think is just an incredible university.
Tim Cosgrove, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it very much. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
We will be back with more of Cleveland Conversations. Stay with us. Cleveland Conversation continues from Cleveland State University's Fall 2023 Commencement Celebration Weekends, and we are pleased to be joined by one of the provosts from Cleveland State University, Provost Sridhar. Currently, Cleveland State University's Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. His service and impact to the community stretches beyond Cleveland State University. He's a member of the Board of Education for the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, the Board of Trustees for the Urban Community School, and is currently, he recently joined the City Club, the Board of the City Club. Welcome, Provost Sridhar. Tell us a little bit just about the relationship between the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and Cleveland State and how important that is.
First of all, thank you for having me. This is in fact a fantastic time to be on our college campus. Celebrating commencement is the day that I live for. Right, this is the day that we get to celebrate with our students and their accomplishments. It's a fantastic time. When we think about the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and Cleveland State University, these are our two anchors with respect to education in the city of Cleveland and in this community of Northeast Ohio. The public education system has immense meaning for the future of our community, for the future of our region. With respect to CSU and CMSD, we really do have strong communication and connections. We see hundreds of graduates from CMSD come to Cleveland State University on a yearly basis. Our faculty and staff work with CMSD students and teachers on a regular basis. We have 3 schools on our campus. We have the Campus International K-8 school, which is located just on the north side of our campus. Campus International's high school is on the eastern edge of our campus, as well as MC Squared STEM High School. The 11th and 12th grades of that school are on our campus as well. And it really is an authentic, strong relationship between CSU and CMSD.
For those that aren't aware, what does a provost do? you hear that all the time. It's a big title.
It is an interesting title. I think it's on a college campus. It is the most fun job. I get to oversee all academic operations of the university, and as such, anything that happens on the campus from an academic perspective falls under my purview, and it's really cool. I can go in a single day meeting with students and faculty in an engineering lab. Talking about research that's funded by the National Science Foundation, walk down the hall to check out a music concert and an academic program in the School of Music, and then go back to a biology lab looking at research that's funded by the National Institutes of Health. And when we think about the breadth as well as the depth of various academic programs, I think I am about the only person on this campus that gets to touch and see everything that happens. I am privileged to work with incredible colleagues, the deans in the various colleges, the faculty members in every one of the academic departments, and our students. Our students are the lifeblood of the university, and the creativity, the drive, the excitement that they bring to the classroom every day is just fantastic to see.
So we talk about first generation college students, people that are getting the first chance to go to college in their family. What historically has been the mission for Cleveland State relative to those first generation students?
So first of all, I'm a first gen student myself, but I grew up in India. I'm a first generation immigrant in the United States, and I didn't know the term first gen growing up because that's not a thing that that people talk about in India. I learned this term about 10 or 12 years ago after I had come here to Cleveland State and seen the term in use. Neither of my parents went to college. They both earned baccalaureate degrees, but by distance education well into their 30s. So they didn't have a college campus experience. And many of our students are in that same boat, right? And it's a huge thing. I mean, when you talk about a family that knows what it means to go to college, have the experience of being on a college campus, having experienced 4 or 5 years, going through that process, the kind of conversations that they are able to have with their children, with their young people in their lives is just fundamentally different than a first-gen college student, right? And a vast number of our students, somewhere between a third and a half of the students that attend Cleveland State for their undergraduate degree, somewhere between a third and a half of the students who will walk across the stage tomorrow to collect their diplomas, and I will have the privilege of shaking their hands and congratulating them, come from households where they are the first in their family to go to college, right? Which means that they have had to forge the pathways themselves. They have had to do the discovery themselves. They have had to understand the FAFSA. They have had to understand the vagaries of financial aid systems. They have had to understand what it means to go see a professor during office hours, right? It's a tremendous amount of burden that falls on them. And as a campus community, we embrace them, right? We try our best to provide a campus environment to be welcoming, where they can find belonging, they can find a place, and they can find a home at Cleveland State University.
Are there programs that are specifically designed that help them, and how important are those? Just from what you're saying, it affects roughly half of the
Absolutely. So in fact, so our president, Laura Bloomberg, just made a significant change in the way that we are organized as a university by creating a new division called Student Belonging and Success. So there's a vice president of Student Belonging and Success, my dear colleague, Dr. Tishal Banks, who directs that division, which has the mission of saying that every student that walks on this campus finds a place, finds a home, right? That we as a campus welcome them and take care of them. Specifically for first-gen students, again, we have a variety of different kinds of programs. We have a program that we call Summer Bridge Enrichment Academy, where students can come to our campus, live on our campus for a week or two, understand what it means to become a college student. Aside from that, our first year advising office has a variety of drop-in days and programs that are specifically targeted at first gen. We celebrate our first gen students in the fall semester as well as in the spring semester. We have first gen days where people that are first generation wear a pin so you can easily identify and ask questions.
How rewarding is it for you, given that you are a first generation, to see so many people that are improving their lives by being able to do that?
It is incredibly rewarding. A 4-year college degree, as much as rhetoric in the popular media may suggest otherwise, is still the biggest item of currency that helps people, see social mobility, people get into jobs and growth opportunities throughout their careers. And when we, there was a recent article I saw that said something like 70% of all job openings, job descriptions in the United States still require a 4-year college degree. So the ability for our students, our graduates, to have access to those high-paying jobs is incredibly important. We did an economic impact study for the university a few months ago, which showed that every dollar invested in a CSU student has a 19-fold impact on society, right? So it's not just impacting those students; it is impacting our community as a whole, our region as a whole, and the amount of satisfaction that we as a leadership team as well as a faculty team at the university get is immeasurable.
And it's important again to note, most of the students that graduate from Cleveland State University stay in Northeast Ohio.
Absolutely. In real terms, 80%, between 80 and 82% of all of our graduates stay in the region 10 years after graduation.
So it is commencement weekend. What does that mean to you? Can you reflect on that as somebody who's you're the Vice President of Academic Affairs? What does commencement mean?
Well, commencement to me means means celebration, right? I mean, this is the capstone of celebrating the accomplishments of our students, the accomplishments of our faculty, the accomplishments of every single staff person across the university that have helped a student walk on this campus to be a first-time, full-time freshman student, to see them through 4 years or sometimes 5 or 6 years, because to be real, many of our students take longer than 4 years to get an undergraduate degree, as well as our master's students and our doctoral students. The collective accomplishment of us as a campus community is what commencement means to me, right? This is the happy faces that I get to see tomorrow is really the driver to coming to work every day.
Provost Sridhar, appreciate the time. Keep up the great work here at Cleveland State.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
That'll do it for this edition of Cleveland Conversations from Cleveland State University's Commencement Weekend. We'll see you again next time.